In the heart of southeastern Nigeria, nestled among red clay paths and thick groves of mango trees, lived Chukwuemeka, a wealthy trader whose fame reached from Enugu to Sokoto. His wife, Amaka, was as graceful as morning dew and fierce as harmattan winds. Together they bore one son, Obinna. The boy was the joy of the compound. With a lion pendant always around his neck, a gift from his father, he followed Chukwuemeka everywhere. Traders laughed at the boy's bold questions. Farmers let him weigh their yams. Even strangers whispered, "That boy will walk far." Each evening, father and son would sit in the courtyard under the moonlight, where Chukwuemeka told tales of distant markets and desert storms. Obinna loved those moments. He dreamed not just of trade but of greatness, of walking in his father's footsteps and maybe even beyond. Chukwuemeka had once lived and traded in the north but left after a violent crisis swept through Kaduna. Years later, he planned a short return north with his wife, not with a caravan, but in his cherished 1986 Range Rover Jeep. It was supposed to be a quiet business trip. Obinna remained behind, watching their figures shrink along the red horizon. His father had cupped his cheek and said, "The world is wide, my lion. But never forget where your roar began." They never returned. Along the road between Kaduna and Jos, the couple was ambushed by armed herdsmen. Their vehicle burned, their lives taken. Some claimed it was banditry. Others whispered betrayal. When the news reached the village, the sky wept. Greedy uncles divided what Chukwuemeka left behind. Old friends suddenly remembered debts. The house once full of laughter became quiet as a grave. Obinna, only 6, was left in the care of his father's younger brother. But instead of protection he found neglect. The uncle squandered what remained of Chukwuemeka's wealth. Obinna suffered, working menial jobs just to eat. One day, a former business associate of Chukwuemeka spotted the boy hawking roasted groundnuts. Recognizing him, the man took Obinna in and gave him a place at his warehouse. Obinna swept floors, loaded trucks, and slowly learned the language of trade. Obinna kept nursing his dream as he grows old. When he was 12, a delivery truck headed to the north caught his eye. Without a word, he climbed aboard, hiding beneath tarpaulin. He wanted to follow the path his father once took. But somewhere near Makurdi, the driver discovered him and threw him off in the middle of nowhere. Obinna began to wander. Obinna wandered northward. From Makurdi to Lafia to Yola, he passed through towns like a ghost. He worked for food. Slept under carts. Hid from men with cruel hands. He learned to listen more than speak. He learned that pity dies faster than bread. One day near a river he collapsed. An old Tuareg trader found him. "You walk with fire but carry no smoke," the man said, giving him water. Obinna stayed with the trader's cattle convoy for seasons. He learned languages, weights, the scent of trade, and the danger of secrets. The desert taught him silence, but the pendant around his neck never let him forget. By 20 he was a man of many tongues and few smiles. But the lion on his chest whispered still, "You are not done." The truck carrying cattle, part of a Ganiku convoy, broke down near a Fulani settlement outside Sokoto. The convoy would be stranded for days. Obinna amongst them, very hard-working as usual, quiet and focused. One morning Zainab Jadado, walked past the convoy returning from the local market with baskets in her hands. One slipped. Obinna rushed to help. Their eyes met. She was stunning, dark smooth skin, a cascade of braids, silver ankle beads tinkling with each step. A sash hugged her hips and she moved like the wind, fast, free, full of fire. The first time she saw him, she frowned. "You walk like someone who wants to disappear," she said. "Some people disappear so they won't be hunted," he replied. Zainab started bringing him roasted maize, palm nuts, and dates. He taught her to read maps and stars. They argued about goats, laughed at camels, and shared silences that said more than words. Suddenly, Obinna started avoiding her for no reason. She tried to find out why, but he will distance himself even further. One afternoon, Obinna stumbled upon her bathing in the river. Beads on her waist shimmered like moonlight. He froze, then tried to retreat, but she turned, sensing him. He expected rage, but she only met his eyes and said, "You found the fire, now don't burn." From that moment on, Obinna could not concentrate as her thought filled mind and heart. That night, under starlight, she asked of his pendant, "Was that your father's?" "Yes." "And the fire in your eyes, is that yours?" He didn't answer. But her presence soothed something. For the first time since the red clay days, Obinna felt seen. Around the campfire, stories flowed with goat meat and desert. One old man, gray-bearded and looking drunk, arguing with some friends and telling them how Jadado claimed their heads for himself, whereby reminiscing. There was a time, a noble Igbo trader and his wife were killed on the road. Ambushed. Their jeep burned. The whispers in Sokoto markets spoke of raiders. Some said Fulani. Some said they followed Malam Jadato. Obinna froze. Malam Jadato. Zainab's father. He wanted to believe otherwise. Zainab insisted her father is not such a man. Nevertheless, since she noticed Obinna's mood, she asked his father directly, but he silenced her. Obinna began watching. One thing drew his eye, an old metal safe used as a stool in Zainab's home. It felt familiar. One afternoon, sitting on it, he noticed a lion engraving on its side, faint but undeniable. His heart pounded. He placed his pendant against the mark. A soft click. The lid creaked open. Inside, faded photos of Chukwuemeka and Amaka, a lock of baby hair, old Naira notes, gold coins, proof. He stumbled back, eyes burning. The fire had spoken. Obinna stared at the open safe, heart pounding like thunder beneath his ribs. The faint glint of silver reflected his wide eyes. Inside lay an old, worn photograph, his father Chukwuemeka, smiling beside a younger version of himself, and in his father's arms, a baby wrapped in patterned cloth, Obinna. Beside it, a sealed envelope. Inside, crisp Naira notes. A letter written in Igbo, folded with care. To whoever finds this, if blood guides you here, then may the ancestors light your path. Let no hand greedy for gain touch what is not theirs. There was also a brass ring. It bore the same lion crest that hung from Obinna's neck. Zainab found him sitting there, still as a stone. "What is it?" she asked gently. He looked up. "My father was here. In this house. This was his." She stared at the open safe in disbelief. It's always been here. We used it as a stool. No one ever opened it." Obinna turned to her. "I have to speak to your father. This is no longer a tale by the fire." Zainab hesitated. "He won't talk. He never does. I'll make him." That night, Obinna stood before Malam Jadato, the fire crackling between them, the lion pendant swinging softly from his neck. The desert wind carried silence like a blade. "You recognize this?" Obinna asked, holding the ring and pendant. Malam Jadato's face shifted, shock, then weariness. His shoulders slumped. "I do." "Then say it," Obinna whispered. Jadato sat down slowly, staring into the flames. "I didn't join them by choice," he said. "This isn't to excuse what happened, nor to seek your favor. I say this because for years I have carried the weight, and this may be the only moment I can set it down." Obinna said nothing. "At first we only raided to survive. We scared traders, never killed. Took food, supplies, sometimes gold. But that day," he paused, pain flashing across his features, "that day was different." He drew a trembling breath. "There was a man among us, not one of the core groups. A new face. He knew everything, timing, route, even your father's name. We were uneasy, but he promised a rich target. When we struck, it was meant to be like the others. But that man, he drew a machete before anyone else. He set the Range Rover ablaze. I saw your father try to shield your mother." Jadato's voice broke. "We left him there. I buried the safe. The guilt still keeps me from sleep." Obinna's knuckles tightened. "Why?" he demanded. "Months later," Jadato continued, "I heard from a market whisper, your father's shop in Jos had been claimed by a close associate. A man who'd borrowed gold from him, and never paid back. The one who sent your father north that day." Silence hung heavy. Obinna felt his blood run cold. A betrayal from within. Not just raiders, but greed, calculation, treachery. "And you said nothing all these years?" "I feared the truth," Jadato said, head bowed. "And I feared for my life and my tender family. Hence I stopped, but the guilt never did." Obinna stepped back, heart storming. He wanted to scream, to curse, to strike. But he looked down at the ring in his hand. The line. The legacy. "I will find this associate," Obinna said quietly. "And I will make my father's name mean something again." Jadato looked up, eyes wet. "Then you are stronger than I ever was." Obinna turned and walked into the dark. But Zainab screaming and calling out, crying, but Obinna never answered.